Joining me now is Shadow Environment Minister Jonathon Duniam. Jonathon, good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me. I want to start with yet another failed wind farm project. It's, well, as I said, it's 3 shelved offshore wind farm projects in 6 months. I wonder if this is some sort of record here in this country, but what's your response?
Well, what's it take to get through to a minister that your plan's not working, that it is actually bad for our country, bad for the economy and indeed bad for the environment? If you've got proponents of projects like this walking away because they just can't do business here, and that is a hallmark of this government. I suspect the non-response in when the proponent walked away from the project was really them just saying, we can't do business in this country, like so many other proponents of projects across the board. But the fact that 3 projects, wind farms, have now been shelved, the fact that they're not meeting their target for renewables as they promised they would, 82% was the amount we were supposed to be getting fed into the grid. We're well short of that by the time that they'd proposed. And of course, that promise you've already mentioned, by bringing power bills down by $275 a year by next year, we're a long way off that. I mean, what is it going to take for these people to drop their relentless zealotry, where they're wedded to green ideology, which is not achieving any of the things they promised or said that it would, or any of the things that we actually need, which is a lower set of power prices across the country and a functioning economy. They are doing everything they can to stop it. And as you rightly point out, Chris Bowen has no idea what he is doing, and this government is all at sea on these sorts of issues.
No, he's literally making it up as he goes along day by day. And, you know, Jonathon, with all these wind farms not being able to get off the ground, at the same time, Labor is desperately rushing to shut down coal-fired power plants. And yet we know in New South Wales they had to extend the life of Eraring. But it doesn't give you much hope, does it, that there is a plan to keep the lights on in this country? Where are we going to get the electricity from?
Yeah, well, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, so no new wind, no coal, no new gas projects. Of course, dams were outlawed a long time ago in my home state of Tasmania, courtesy of Bob Brown and that political party, the Australian Greens. And of course, now Labor are saying no nuclear. That's the worst thing that we could ever do. So they really are cutting off every avenue of opportunity we have to bring on new generation. And the only way, if, as most Australians would know, that you can bring down power prices is to increase supply, that basic law of economics. But their plans, which are to see coal exit the grid, to prevent nuclear from coming online, and we're going to rely wholly on things like wind, solar and small amounts of hydro, that is not going to bring down power prices. It's not going to keep the lights on. And the worst part is, if you're looking to invest in some sort of heavy industry, manufacturing here, remembering we are a long way away from the rest of the world, and so getting goods to market is costly, you've got to have cheap energy, and we won't have that. So it's going to mean disastrous outcomes for jobs in this country, and again, that'll flow on to the economy. But again, they don't see this because of their green ideology, their zealotry, and the people that are paying the price are your viewers and the Australian taxpayers.
Yeah, absolutely, because as I said, the power bills are going up and up, even though we were promised they would go down, and we'll promise that $275. It's just ridiculous. Now, let's talk about native title. We have seen the disastrous impact of it on many projects across this country. You'd know, of course, most recently that the Blaney gold mine in New South Wales, which was overturned at the last minute by a group of about 18. But now the WA government has apparently written to Canberra asking for changes to the Native Title Act to protect its resources industry. Jonathon, I'm not sure about this myself, because the WA government, when it comes to native title, I mean, it has its own massive faults there. But how much leverage do traditional owners currently have over the mining industry?
Yeah, Danica, they have an exceptional amount of leverage, as we've seen. I mean, this federal cultural heritage laws, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Heritage Protection Act, which is a piece of legislation that gives anyone who claims to be Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander anywhere in the country the capacity to kill off a project, like we saw, as you said before, with the Blaney gold mine, and it's happened elsewhere, and there are claims on foot as we speak, and it is the most flawed, open-ended piece of legislation, something that if we win the next election, we will rewrite. We cannot allow this to continue to be the case. For the most part, traditional owners, Indigenous Australians, like every other Australian, simply want projects to get up so that there is economic activity, so that there are jobs for their young in their country and in their communities. That's the kind of thing they want. But there are a select few out there who, in partnership and often at the behest of green activists, groups like the Environmental Defenders Office that Labor give millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to every year, and they go out and they weaponise Indigenous heritage claims, and that puts at risk projects, many of which we've discussed here tonight and previously on the program. And so the leverage is too much, and we need to get the balance right. And again, that's something we, if we are elected at the next election, will get right. And people like Jacinta Price have called it out. People who want good things to happen in their community are being weaponised by green inner-city activists, and it's something that we have to stop.
Oh, look, absolutely, we have to stop. And I can't help but wonder, Jonathan, if there is some sort of an agenda here, because we found out last week from the Daily Telegraph that Indigenous cultural conservation claims have targeted 30 mining and pipeline projects, but just 2 renewables projects since 2012. This all ties in, doesn't it? What's the agenda here?
Yeah, it's passing strange in it. You can't argue with those numbers, 2 renewables projects and 30 resources projects. It is, frankly, as I said before, the latest strategy being deployed by the anti-jobs and anti-economic brigade, aligned with political groups like the Greens, and they all have different names and they all sound friendly, but they are not. They're insidious groups that seek to shut down our economy. And they've gone from chaining themselves to machinery in forestry coups or on mine sites to registering claims under environmental law to stop these projects, to now using Indigenous cultural heritage law and sadly taking a lot of these traditional owner groups on the journey with them and exploiting these laws, gaps in the laws and loopholes and open-ended laws, and stopping these projects. So their agenda is the same as it's always been, ever since Bob Brown founded the Greens. They will stop at nothing to stop these projects, and it is bad news for our country. And again, we've got to tighten these laws up to put a stop to their job-destroying, economy-destroying agenda.